Okay, everybody, thank you for coming tonight. Welcome to our first Wednesday night kickoff. That's right, Ronald. There we go. So before we begin tonight, we're going to send our kids to their classes, our teens to their class. I'm going to let Miss Bella give an announcement about kids, and then we'll go from there. We'll say a prayer, and we'll get started.
If you have a kid who is 3 years old through 6th grade, we are going to be meeting down the hall on the right in that big classroom. We're going to be meeting all together. Mr. Daniel Williams is going to act as our guardian angel. Very exciting. So if your child is in 3rd grade or younger, you can go pick them up with Mr. Daniel. Otherwise, they'll come out here to meet up with y'all at 7:30. Any questions? Okay, that's
all right, so before everybody splits up, you got one more thing to say? We're going to say a prayer together. We'll thank God for the food that we've already eaten. God's timeline is different than ours. So, and then teens, you're down in Kingdom Corner like normal for Wednesday in the Word, right? Adults, you can stay here and huddle around a table. Let's pray together. Father, thank you so much for this family of believers. Thank you for the sounds of kids talking and running around, and teenagers laughing and talking to each other, and just adults fellowshipping. It's truly a blessing to be a part of a people that love each other and love being together. Thank you for providing for our families. We're very fortunate where we live, and you take care of us. I pray, Father, that we don't just take that for granted. Father, tonight as we go into our classes, as we talk through the building project, all the things that we're doing, may it be for your glory. May your Son Jesus be lifted high. And Father, give us an added measure of your Spirit tonight, so whatever we hear or whatever interactions we have, that we are led by the prompting of your Spirit. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. are going to hit all three screens? All three of you the same? Yeah. Okay, so tonight, I know that we have several that are streaming online. What we're going to do is we'll kind of talk through where we've been, where we are, and where we're going, and give some time for Q&A at the end. We can't end a conversation about the building without having that. So, so before we jump in, just thank you guys for being here all tonight. I know that it's not just this, it's Wednesday night. Hopefully this is something that you put on your calendar and you're here every Wednesday night. John Vaught is going to be teaching for the next several weeks. And I was told to tell you that if you don't come next Wednesday, he will take it as a personal offense. So, but tonight, we want to just walk through this building program. If you have been here for more than 5 years, more than that, as that number keeps going up, we have talked about this for a long time. This has been a very long journey. It has been something that has been sporadic, planned, but also sometimes not our best moments of being transparent, as we dealt with COVID and everything went paused. And so we've tried to come at this from a different angle, and part of that is our vision. So 2 years ago, several who were in this room were part of a vision team, and we were working on our vision and where we are going as a church. There's always this discrepancy between mission and vision, and my mom's like, why do you need that for a church? I'm like, well, Mom, our mission is something that God gave us. It's non-negotiable. Jesus said, go and make disciples. We say, boldly show Jesus, love God, and love others because God first loved us. But our vision is how we're getting there. So that's where we want to be, is we want to make disciples. How do we do that? How do we go about making disciples in our church? The steps, the pathway. What are we, the journey of this picture the picture of the journey that we're on together. And so we worked on this vision while the building project was really paused, because we knew that the vision needed to drive anything that we're doing as a church, including a building project. In the past, when this had been talked about, there were moments when it seemed almost like the building project was driving the vision. And we called it vision forward. It wasn't meant to be that. It was meant to be, hey, we're moving forward in our vision. But at times it felt like we're doing this building project to help us move our vision forward, rather than this is where we want to go and here's how we're going to get there. So that's the heartbeat behind everything that we do. Our 2030 vision that we worked on, and you can find that on the kiosk downstairs or on our website, was here's where we want to be by 2030. But it all started out with this sentence: we will reflect God's heart in our communities. Now, in the past, it was something like that, but we're a part of multiple communities everywhere. We don't want to, it was like, we will be God's heart. And we're like, well, that's pretty presumptuous of us. We are going to be God's heart. But what if we reflect God's heart? We can do that a lot better. And so everything that we do and that we're talking about tonight is driven by that idea. We talked about that we want to be a welcoming haven for everyone. We want to use our unique location and our resources for spiritual impact, and that's where the building project comes into play here, and that's why it matters. So why are we doing a building project? I think that's the question that we've been that people have asked for a while, because sometimes we jump right to pipes and wires without talking about the why. So there are some things, our facility, you're standing in a part of the facility that is part of the oldest part of the building. If you were to walk down that wing here and downstairs, that's the oldest part of the building. Our facility hasn't had any significant additions since the 90s, when what we sit in on Sunday morning was added. And then if you were around in 2019, it got a refresh. It got some no more pews. We got chairs, and we got rid of the carpet. And if you want to see what those colors are like, I have pictures. And it was an upgrade. Trust me, it was an upgrade. But there were people that had the foresight to be able to say, hey, our building is at capacity. 50 years ago, when they came, a group of people came from various churches, Springfield, and they came here and started a church, and they built this building. And Ozella Cox will tell you it was just so fun. People came and they painted, and it was just, you loved being together. Brian Bosley's dad was one of the founders of this church. Or Christ is the foundation, but you know what I mean. And we've been blessed by the foresight of those people to do the work and to the campaign that took to build that worship center. And so our space, though, is beginning to show its age. Our air conditioning systems, you've heard a lot about them, but they are since the 90s. I mean, that's how old they are. The one that's by the worship center over there, if that thing goes out, and we're like, oh, it's 15,000. No, it's much higher than that. What do we do if those things happen? Some of our building, we have electrical issues. We've talked about that in the past, but what we want to see is we're going about is about blessing our next generation the way that the previous generation blessed all of us. It's about what does Fairfax look like for the next 50 years. And it's about creating space for new opportunities. And we want a renewed and flexible ministry space that works for both Sundays and weekdays, not just for when we gather here on Sunday morning, but something that's usable all the time. We want a refreshed, functional design that feels welcoming and mission-focused. We want there's some work that needs to be done in the lobby. I don't know if you've looked at the floors. Don't look at the ceilings. It's, are those things welcoming to people who come into our place? We've talked about this a lot, but an early learning center, the possibility of having something that can have about 200 kids come into our facility where we have an opportunity to not only reach them, but also to reach their families. That's why we're pursuing this, and it's not for the sake of the building itself. I don't think that we need to get wrapped up into the fact of look how great these plans are. We've been down that road. We did the video that we had a couple years ago. And we're like, look how great this is. It was awesome. And you're like, man, I really can't wait to walk into that massive lobby that's 2 stories high. And it's nice, but it wasn't functional for who we are or what we want to do. And so we're not pursuing this because it's going to make our building look flashy and amazing. We're doing it for the sake of the kingdom and for people that we can reach. And so that's the vision. And that's why we believe the project matters. But it needs vision, needs space, and ministry needs home. And we have a fantastic facility here that we're really, really, really behind in a lot of maintenance that needs to be done. And so we want you to see ideas. We want you to hear them, but we also want we're going to show the plans. They're on tables as well if you need a closer look. But what we're going to do is we want you to see how the facility can both serve our church and our community. And David is going to walk us through those plans and so that you get a real sense of how the building can carry us in our vision or how it's going to function within our vision. So.
Do I need? How about running the slides? Okay. So we're going to show, and again, if the screen's this big, we'll try to show what we can about the building to you right now. We do have 3 different tables. I just have to, like I'm in a concert. Okay. There are 3 separate tables that you can then go and play around with, and I won't take any offense if while we're talking you go and look at them. That's what they're intended for. All 3 of the tables have the 2 floor plans. 2 of the tables, the far one in the corner and this one, have some images of vantage points of the building, like the way the architects are designing the buildings in some 3D design. Amy, what's it called? You know what it's? Revit. Doesn't mean anything to all of us, but it's a 3D design. And what they can do is they can go to position themselves at one spot and take a picture, and then you can see it. But it's stick figure, it's black and white, but you'll be able to get some sense of it. And then one thing that we'll also do is show a buildup of the cost of the building, so you understand that we have to do something, and what is that we have to do, and then what can we do. I think we said for a couple years, there's no do-nothing option. We have to do something. and how do we do it? And then also the aspect of getting to the additional building, the space that would accommodate a school, is a way to have the building be used all the time for God's service. Okay, which one do you want to go first? Sure. Can anybody see this? All right. How about if can everybody see? Okay. All right. So if we start with the auditorium, the biggest single change where we were doing actual building instead of renovation is to tear down the room behind the auditorium and make a 2-story place that's either 2,000 or 3,000 square feet. It's 2 stories. And the intention behind that is to add storage for all the chairs. Whenever we have an event that is not a worship event and we need the chairs out of the way, it's very hard to impossible for us to move all the chairs out. I think we've done it once or twice. Is this better? I don't do this for a living. So the idea would be to have, when we need to, we can quickly move all the chairs and all tables that we might have in the storage area, and then we have a 7,000 square foot open space. And then there's a second story, which the architects call mezzanine because it's a little shorter than a normal height, but it's a second floor essentially, where we will have restrooms and laundry, or we'll have the restrooms and laundry downstairs. We'll figure it out, but the idea is to be whatever we can do to get all the chairs and tables when we need to out of the auditorium so we can use that 7,000 square foot for another purpose if it doesn't involve all the chairs. And we'll talk about it later. That and the rest of the auditorium is the single biggest element of expense because it's actual new building. But if you move, the other big change that you'll see is, besides every surface being refreshed, the foyer will look different, the hallways will look different. I think they're talking about putting overlays of the cinder block of drywall. But the biggest thing you'll notice is that the offices will be where the nursery is, and the nursery will be where the offices are. So the nurseries will be towards the classrooms, and the back entrance, the other entrance we often use. And the offices will be closer to the auditorium, but that will also allow a couple things. It'll allow an exterior entrance to the office. So if you're coming to the office to see one of the ministers or do something in the office space, you'll be able to park in the front parking space and parking lot and run in. And then it'll also allow the hallway, that main hallway will be a little bit wider than it is now. So it's already like 9 or 10 feet wide. I think it's going to be 12 or 13 feet wide or so. So it's a bigger fellowship space there. And we will be converting, the plan is to take what is now here, the communion prep room. If you know what it is, if you don't, there's a little door, fridge, coffee sink where we do communion prep. The idea is to expand that down the hallway so that we have a combined communion prep for when we need to prep communion, but also coffee service that will allow us to do self-serve. It'll also allow us, if we need to, do professionally served. Jacob wants to be a barista. Mm-hmm. This is going to allow Jacob to show off flex those muscles. And so those are the biggest changes on the first floor. What you'll notice when you come to the second floor, the teen room, yes. So right now the teen room, it is long and narrow, and it has that hallway, that hallway to nowhere, that we don't know why it's there. And I think originally it was designed to be 3 classrooms, and I don't know they ever used those 3 classrooms. The idea is to take that wall out so the room becomes deeper, and it's less, the length of it that goes down this hallway will take some space back and add a family restroom and add additional storage for the teen space. So it'll be the same amount or greater space. It'll just be a more manageable space. It won't be as long and narrow. But it will also have, right now there's a partition wall that we never use. There are 2 partition walls. I think they use it occasionally, but there'll be 1 partition wall, but there'll also be an operable partition that will allow it to open so that will open out into the fellowship hallway, so that if we need some events where we need more space, the teens will give up their space, and then we can have a larger fellowship space. It just makes it more functional. And I'll talk about it relative to the school later, but let's just talk about it from the church perspective. And then if you go down, Robin, to the other entrance. So where the office space is now will be nursery space. And this entrance that we use, and many of you probably came in tonight, this will be the entrance for, on weekdays, the school, but on weekends, or Wednesday nights, it'll be just like we're using now. But there will be an intake spot. And the only spaces in this building that will be specific to the school that the church does not use will be one office for a director and one storeroom for their storage of like 123 square feet. So yellow, like Robin shows, that's the only space that will be restricted to the school that we just won't use on an everyday basis. And then going to the second floor, you will see that, and you'll see these fancy images that we're going to show you. Currently, well, let's look. Everybody look this way. The kitchen is here. It is a warming kitchen. It's not officially a full kitchen. Sometimes when we cook, we're probably breaking the law. Probably. But don't worry, we don't have a sprinkler system, so if it goes down, it's going to go down magnificently. And then, which, Joel, by the way, is a lawyer. I think you're advocating for no sprinkler system, right? So that we can. So Lainey married Tyler, and his father is an elder at a church. Their church burned down. I think I may have told a few of this. It burned down. Insurance paid for all of it. Their whole rebuild, which is bigger than our building, was $6 million. It's Oklahoma. But he did offer to pray for us for a fire. Twice. Okay, so the big change will be moving. The kitchen is here right now. And we're going to keep the kitchen, but we're going to move it to this side. The kitchen will be larger. It will be full. Why are we keeping it upstairs, and why are we moving it over here? And the last designs that we had where the kitchen was being moved downstairs and we're having the fellowship space downstairs, the problem with that is that the reason we want to have a big fellowship space, a kitchen, and the auditorium was to be able to have 2 independent events at a time. If we had a big event in the auditorium, the foyer space or the fellowship space would always be kind of like the foyer space for the auditorium. You can't make it separate. By keeping the fellowship space up here, we can have 2 discrete activities at one time, if they're fellowship activities. And by putting the kitchen here, it will be closer to this fellowship space and to the auditorium. So the aperture will be bigger to pass food through. The kitchen will be bigger, but it'll also be closer to the stairs and the elevators. And also, my favorite thing about this build, besides the soft serve ice cream machine that Carmen wants to get, I'm supposed to do that, is a dumbwaiter that will drop food down into the auditorium. So right now, one of the coffee service area and the bread area on this side of the auditorium, there's that little alcove. The classroom fits right over it. There's a perfect place to drop it down. So it'll be fantastic if we do that. We're also in this, so these are 2 classrooms. It'll be 1 classroom, the sauna room as we call it. We will also add coffee service here for the adult classes that we don't have currently. And the room that is the fixed prayer room right now, we will move the prayer room. But the idea is we're going to add storage. We need to add some storage upstairs because while this is fellowship space now and it'll be classroom space, the idea throughout the week is that if people need to use 1 to 8 spaces would be to make it so that we can have storage that allows the rooms to be converted for whatever purpose it is. So we've talked to Safe Harbor, a counseling service, early on with the last build. They may want to use it for counseling space. Well, we need to have a space where we have couches and chairs that we can convert the room for when they need it. Robin has talked about he'd love to have teach a class where it's couches and chairs. Why not have couches and chairs and we can configure it? It's not going to be all Ben's responsibility, but we'll have to have a team that can jump around and move and make these things happen so that we can use the building as functionally as we can. There are up to 8 great rooms in here that we can use, but we don't use them all the time, and why not? I like to think about the use of space, not what is this room designed for, but what is it designed for and being used at this point in time, at the next point in time. We have so much unused capacity and capability of the building that by doing that, it'll allow for it. We're going to have, instead of 1 little door, we're going to have double doors so that we open it up easily, we can get stuff in and out and move it easily and quickly. now, if you know where the deaf room is, where they have classes, we've talked about, David's kind of interested in where the kitchen is now, one of these fan-shaped rooms, right? Because it may be better for sign language. So we're still talking through that. Other big things that I missed. Okay. Paul. Yes, sir. Oh, yeah. So we will redo all. I like to always say that this space will all look different. I think when we moved here, the carpet was white, and we just haven't cleaned it. But the company that the brand of the wall system is the best wall system per the architects and the builders, but we will just need to do a whole new wall system. I think part of it will be also the doors will open inside, so that when we walk down the hallway, that you're not blocked. Well, think about it also from an ADA perspective. People trying to get through. I mean, I'm generally capable of walking, and I have problems getting through sometimes, but we'll work on that. It'll all be refreshed. It'll look different and new. They're going to do stuff with the lighting and the ceiling, so it'll look quite a bit different. Anything else? Yeah. All right. So again, we have the different tables. You can go look through those. And then there are also, in some of the tables, there are images that you can look at. They're not the fancy images like the video we saw before. And when you look at the image of the fellowship space here, and you look and you say, well, there's the kitchen. Why are they showing that? It's a trick. It's actually looking this way, and the kitchen's that way. It's fantastic, but you won't notice it until I told you. But look at it, talk about it, ask me any questions, ask Paul any questions, ask Robin questions. We're here to talk about any of that. What we'd also like to do now is show you how we build up the cost. Okay. And the one thing I'll say is that the last design before we went back is we came back to the family, and the build was going to be like $15 or $16 million. And for some of us, that may have not seemed like a big deal, but for me, it was crazy. And part of the reason of that cost was that this one-story part of the building where the teen space is and the offices were going to be torn down and rebuilt into 2 stories. And part of that was to accommodate the large entrance, the 2-story entrance, and to build space for the school. Space that would never, there's not really need for it for the church classrooms, but it was going to be built for the school. By not doing that, and by keeping the entrance as it is, we're able to just renovate that space and then still use the teen space in Kingdom Corner for school space when it's not needed by the church for other purposes. It's just a smarter, more economical use of the space. Robin, do you want to show the? Okay. So now, I told you it was $15 million. Now it's $9,012,000 is the cost for the build. This includes, I'll tell you what includes and what doesn't include. It includes anything and everything related to the build. There are costs that related to an AV consultant. Ben will tell you we don't need that. And I think he's right, because Ben's going to want to do that. There are sign consultants. We told them put everything, the kitchen sink into it, because we don't want to be surprised by a potential cost. And so from that, then we'll start to peel things away. Marty, who led the build for Arlington Church of Christ, has looked at the list. He's on the building team and said, we don't need this, we don't need this, we don't need this. But we have them keep it in so that we know potentially what we're dealing with. It also includes contingencies. So in the $9 million, there's about $1.4 million of contingencies in escalation. If you talk to other people that deal in real estate, particularly Chad Patterson, will say, leave the contingencies in, because we always have, our eyes are always bigger than our stomach, and we will want things that we think we don't want. We'll say, add this, add this, add this. So we're keeping those in right now. So with the contingencies, it's $9 million. Without, it's 7.6 if it's $1.4 million for contingencies. The way that works out to get to the $9 million is the first $2.8 million is pipes and wires and fixing the electrical so that our kids don't have to wear hard hats when they go back in the teen area, and we don't have to sign off that they can get electrocuted and we won't get sued. It's fixing the space. We spend $2.8 million. The place will be safer and cleaner, and we'll have a sprinkler system, which I understand is not a safety thing, but it's a preservation thing. But the building will look exactly the same. The carpet won't even be cleaned for that. The parking lot includes $450,000 to redo the carpet to the parking lot. So the only thing that'll look different is the parking lot. That is the base minimum of there is no do nothing option. It's around $3 million just to fix things that we need to. Then, as we build up, no, that's fine. Oh, that's okay. So we're building it up to get to the $9 million. To relocate the kitchen from here from there to there, it's $325,000 the estimate. If we just convert the kitchen in space where it is to a fully functioning kitchen, that's $125,000. So it's moving $200,000 is moved from here to here. You can question whether that makes sense, but the overall usability over long term, we think that makes sense to do. The biggest single component of the build is around a little over almost $2.3 million to add the space behind the auditorium and to do the auditorium work. Now, how much did it cost to build the auditorium when we did in '96? Was it something less than that, probably? Anybody know? 2 or 3, okay. It's crazy, but it's 2025. So to do the auditorium and the space behind it, that's $2.3 million. This is the single, only physical addition that we're adding to the building. And it's adding 2 to 3. Yes. Yes. In today's money, that'd be like 40 million, right? Something like that. So it's a bargain. So Robin is showing in blue all the space. If we do another 300,000 and 2.3 million, the storage behind the auditorium and the kitchen, which I personally think it adds to the overall functionality of the building. There are major functional steps to the building. Adding the space behind the auditorium, I'm repeating myself, allows us to use that building for multiple reasons fully. It'll add restrooms, it'll add laundry. Whether the laundry's on the first floor and the second floor, we'll get laundry in the building. We need to do, normally we'd have tablecloths. We would need to do laundry after tonight. We need to do laundry after when we have Mondays with certain families that come in here for classes. Variety of things. And various people take them home and wash them. Why not have it in the building? We can do that. And there may be, if we continue with hypothermia, we may get the opportunity to do laundry for the guests that stay there and for a variety of other purposes. Right now in the baptistry, it's just changing rooms, isn't it? Actually a toilet and a shower so that it's a fully functioning restrooms. It'll add so much to the functionality of it. And we'll make sure that where it is now, like somebody that has disabilities can't really get up to the stage. Doug, you were talking about the ramp that you built, which is about a 45-degree angle, isn't it? Yeah, that's not healthy. We will have some sort of ramp or lift system. One of the architect's children is quadriplegic, and she's been very attentive about our needs in the family to say what works and what doesn't work. Okay, and so that gets you to 5.26 million to do the absolute base and to add the storage space behind the room and the auditorium work. The next 3.75 to get to the 9 million will make the whole building look different. That is the refreshing of the classrooms, the moving of the offices, the relocation of the renovation of the hallway, the teen space, every space. Now, when we looked at it two times ago, most of the cost was going into tearing down part of the building and building a school. If you look at this, and the last design we had a restroom for every child, essentially. There were 2 restrooms in every classroom, and we realized that we don't need that. We don't have to have it. It's not, maybe it's a selling feature for some families, but we think if we, watch the kids appropriately, we can send them to the restrooms. That very little of the build is going to be just for the benefit of the school. 2 classrooms. Now, right now we store some, like Trail Life and some other groups store stuff in the downstairs classrooms. Okay, we could keep using it as a classroom if we don't have school space, but we're using classrooms as storage space. Why not move it to this back space or take it to your house. I know some people have some personal things in the storage space, and just make better use of it. But the $3.75 million, again, does the stuff that we will see is in that latter part, right? So the 2.6 million at the beginning, we're not going to see any of it, but we have to do it. Doing the auditorium, we will see a lot in the auditorium, but most of that cost of the 2.2 goes into the storage space behind it, but that also deals with the acoustics and the staging and everything in the auditorium. But then the remainder of the 3.75 does so much to change the functionality and the use of the whole building, very little of which is specifically only for the school. The majority of it will be for our benefit that we will see. If we say the school's not to our benefit, that's another discussion. But we will see all of this change with that latter bit that gets us to the 9 million. We're going to assume it's going to still be 9 million, but again, we have those contingencies. Maybe it'll be less if we work to make it better. One thing that we don't include in here is that we also did an estimate of if we do the school, how long will it take for the school to ramp up before the income from the school outpaces the expenses. We have in our estimate, and maybe you could talk about this a little bit, about your idea, that it's around $800,000 in year 1 and year 2 that we will have to spend, that the income from the school will not cover it. But in the third year, all 3 years total will be $20,000 over. And that's assuming the school by full capacity is like 85 or 90% capacity. We never have in the models that it's 100% capacity. So I think it's a little bit potentially conservative, but it's not aggressive. So again, the first 2 years, it would be $680,000 in the first year, and then a total of $800,000 in years 1 and year 2. But by year 3, will be again $20,000 over. So we'll make that up by the third year. Robin had an idea that may help accelerate that, and we've been talking with and we'll talk about this in a bit, a not-for-profit stewardship consultant who has talked about some ways to promote the school. You want to chat about that?
Yeah, one of the things that we talked through with this guy last week, we've had a couple meetings with him, but we talked through, in our area, there are people on waiting lists for preschools and early learning centers because they get them on there very early. Some cultures and families who come here value education highly, and so they have their kids in school very early. And so we talked about being able to promote that at a certain year gap, 2 or 3 years before we are ready to hit go, where we can already start having those waiting lists ready to go. And then we would know, hey, we're at 80% capacity, and you can promote that. But it also gives us an opportunity to meet these families early, to start meeting them now. We're like, hey, we have a children's minister, by the way. We have Bella Bartlett. We want to introduce you to her. She's awesome. So we can start finding out early where we are with the capacity, how are we getting there, and it gives us a little bit more of a ramp up. Instead of worrying like year 1, hope we get enough people to sign up, that we're starting early enough. And it also gives us a deadline to go, we have to be done by this date. That has been the biggest question for everyone. What's the timeline like? When are we breaking ground? And part of that vision was by 2030, we have an early learning center that is at full capacity. It's 2025, and so the question now turns not to can we afford this, but how do we afford this? And so those are the conversations that we're having now.
Yeah, and Robin will start to talk about this in a minute, but and we'll ask you for questions, and we'll ask you to start thinking about things before we leave. But one of the things you could think about is, and we've done this before, but how to best use the building daily and weekly, and that's where a lot of this building came through. Before we had the refresh vision, that is a question we posed to everyone, and we got a lot of feedback. If you remember, we met at that point 86% of the family. A lot of great feedback. A lot of it was used and shaped everything that we're doing here. What we're going to do now is talk about, with the $9 million, how do we afford it? We've talked to, there'll be, do we raise all the money ourselves? Do we finance it a bit? We have no loan right now on the property. We have talked to a number of banks, 3 or 4 different banks, and they will loan 50 to 60% of the build cost. Now, 50% of the build cost includes the $9 million projected and anything else that we've spent to date. So all the work that we've done before, probably $500,000 or so to date, I think that gets included in the project cost as well, which we paid for. But we need to talk about how we're going to finance that. Part of the idea of, and also right now with the campaign that we did before, that we paused, some people didn't pause in their giving. And we have over $500,000 still saved, available for the program, so we're already ahead of the game a little bit, that has already been raised and we still have. The generous gifts and donations that people have made towards this already, but we need to do more, and so we're going to determine, how do we do that? Do we raise all of it? Do we raise 50%, which we've already got? You know, if we have to raise 4.5 million, we've already got 500,000. Do we raise 4 million? How do we do that? So the next phase is for us to go into start meeting with family members, and Robin will talk about this. But the last time we met across the family, as I just mentioned, we met with 86% of the family members, person to person. We don't need to do that this time for this purpose about stewardship, but
Yeah, what we want to start doing, and I want to make sure that we leave time for questions, so we have 10 minutes. What we want to start, our plan is to start doing is reaching out to families in the next couple of months in the fall and start having these conversations about giving and finding out where are we and what can we do. And that makes me a little nervous because first off, I'm a preacher in a church and I'm going to talk to people about money. That doesn't have movies written all over it. But this capital campaign group that we're working with will do training on that. And so some of this is conversations just going to, what does this look like for the future? And the goal would be that we start our capital campaign in the spring, so that we are launching that and going forward. Well, the meetings in the fall will be with around 20 families, starting out small and trying to say, hey, we have a certain number that we have to hit to be able to say, okay, we are in go mode. And so we'll be talking to seeding is what they call it, seeding families, and just talking through the next steps forward. And I know that always makes us feel a little uncomfortable, but there are a lot of options that we can do with that. One of that is I just found out that if you're a certain age, you have to donate a certain amount of money every year out of your IRA or I think that's what it is. And I was like, well, what a better way to do that than with the church. So we'll have some conversations will be coming up here in the next few months, capital campaign in the spring. Once we have reached our goal, once we know like we have committed to where we are and the bank is good to go, then we contact our architects and we contact the builders and we say, let's go. Now there's a time period between start and when they can get machinery on the building, on the property, and when they start working. But the sooner that we're ready to know that we have that money raised, the sooner we are ready to hit go mode.
Yeah. I'm not a tax accountant, but I don't think with the IRAs that you have to donate. You can donate.
No. Just assume you have to.
That's so good. So again, the plan, we said it was suggested we reach out to 15, 20 families. We're going to look to reach out to 15, 20 families. We're not looking for the most important or most special. We're just trying to get a smattering of family members, probably a lot of people in this room because you're here, to talk about your stewardship. We're gonna try to reach out to people, but if you want to have that conversation, and please do, and you want to talk about your ideas and how you think you could help, not about the designs right now, that's something else, but if you want to be part of that, reach out to us and say that you want to schedule a call with us. We're more than happy to do that, to schedule it with you if you want to do it, instead of us reaching to you.
Yeah, and the biggest thing that that we also just want to reiterate is that I don't think that this is such a project that we're just putting it all on the shoulders of 15 to 20 people. I think it involves all of us, and we can be good stewards and just talk through what it is. Our church is very good about giving when there are needs and other things. So we'll be hitting that in the spring when we hit a capital campaign. So what we're going to be doing coming up really quickly is we're working to make sure that our committees are together, a core committee that works, administrative committee that's been together before. I'm sorry, guys, that pillar is right in the way, isn't it? So we're going to be working on putting those teams together. That's going to include not only the administrative team. David is going to be the elder rep on there. We're trying to keep the elders in the shepherding world because, that's where we want them to be. So David will be on there, and I'll be a part of the team as well. Paul Wirt is the building guru, and other people that are working in education and communication. As you notice, we've been trying to be more verbal about this monthly. Someone told me it's just so good to hear about it every month that we're actually doing a building campaign, a building project. So, and that's part of the goal. We don't always have revelation, information to share with you, but we want to make sure that we are sharing something, so we're keeping it in the forefront of, hey, this is happening. And hopefully the goal would be that we are able to find, this is Robin's pipe dream, but by 2026, we are in the building phase, we are moving, and we're seeing that progress happening, because that, to me, is exciting. It's 2025, and maybe that's December 2026 we hit there. I don't know, but I would love to see by 2028 we're getting ready to start talking about opening a school soon. So we'll be working on those core committees, and I'm sure you'll hear more about them. They'll be working in different areas, but our goal would be that we have people who are in our congregation. They're not the paid staff, and paid staff are going to be involved in things, and like Bella wants to be involved in the education part. Of course she does. She's excited about that. She has ideas. And she just started, so she'll get tired later. But we want to be able to involve people in these things. Doug Drown has talked about, talking about the building stuff, wanting to be a part of that. So we want people to be involved, but we just want you to know that things are moving in that direction. So
again, just real quick dates. I'm open up to questions. September, October, November, meeting with family members, and then the goal would be to start the capital campaign in the early spring. So, again, around the rooms are floor plans. There are some images at this table and that table you can look at as you want to. If you have questions about detailed aspects of the cost, I have those. You can talk to me about it. But we're happy to take any, and Paul as well. But please ask questions. We'll determine if it's going to be a long question we can answer it here, or if it's something we need to take offline. But go ahead.
You threw out a figure a couple times. You said we had $500,000 already pledged or committed, and I saw a different figure online. It said we had over $1 million. So what's the scoop?
So $1 million have been contributed to date, and we have it's somewhere over 500,000, maybe 600,000 that we haven't used on that.
that's minus expenses.
Yeah. So we've had building, zoning, architecture expenses that have gone through to get through to this stage, and some of the building expenses. It hasn't been wasted. It's gone towards the designs of this. So there's still, my point with it is there's still a lot of money that we have that allows us to do this.
The house next door, the lot next door, how does that play with the money and the future?
That is a great question.
Phase two.
Paul, you can come up here too, because Paul can answer some of these questions. I think the plan is to have that in phase 2.
Yeah. So we went through a large zoning exercise a couple years ago to have that was residential property. It got zoned as church property, and we can use it. And the plan was at some point to add like a family life center and a sports center, but we need to do this first. And I think it was Steve Watkins was one who would say, let's make sure we're using this building first fully, and then we'll start to use that. So I think in 2020, when we went through some of the designs, or 21, we looked at how we use the space and how often it's like fully used. We're not using the space to its capacity. And so let's use that, and then we'll move on to that one. But it is zoned so that we can do church-related activities with it.
And if there was any building that we would all expect at some point would just randomly start turning on fire, it would be that one. But surprisingly, the rats haven't tripped anything yet. So.
George, I want to publicly thank you for coming up again, because they showed up earliest for this meeting. They came last week at 6 o'clock, and I wanted to go out and talk you through it, but I was on a phone call. But it's fantastic they showed up. It was a blessing, because we were concerned like how many people would show up for tonight, and we knew there was some excitement because people were showing up early. So thank you.
I have a couple questions. First is the plan to do all of this, all all the construction all at one time? Are we going to do it as a phased approach, as was demonstrated with the blue
Yes.
things? Second is, what is the age range of the school that you're intending to use it for? Third question is, if we do everything all at one time, how are we going to incorporate services?
Okay. So let me try to, I'll forget one aspect of it, but the plan is to do it in 2 stages. That's with the builder. Now, the builder is Scott Long Construction. They are specialists in building churches and educational institutions. I think I've told some people before that I have a friend that's at L.F. Jennings and asked for names of companies that do church building. He gave me 2 names, and he said, "Oh, here's 2 names, but I'm going to only call one because it's the only one I trust." And he called them and talked to Scott Long. Scott Long is a member at Toro Anglican Church. Was it Toro Anglican Church? Toro. They understand the needs of a church. They understand that we'll need to be here, and so they'll arrange it. We talked about 2 or 3 phases, but I think they think that we can do it in 2 phases. They believe that while they work on the auditorium, we can be meeting the auditorium all the time. It's because most of it's the building and back, and they have, like Robin pointed out, they have 6 days to do work before we have Sunday worship. They can do work for 5 or 6 days and then clean it up before we meet on those days, Sundays. The age of the school is going to be will be preschool, kids that are potty trained to preschool for the whole day, but before and after school, we'll take kids from that youngest age up to 6th grade or the local elementary schools. So the notion would be that in the morning we would have 200 kids that show up that are kids that are up to 6th grade and preschool children. Then school time, they will go to their school. Some will go to their school and leave space for kind of a classic preschool day, and some other kids will come in. Those kids will leave around 1 or so, and when school's over, more kids will come back in. So we're average still around 200 people at a time. Does that help? Okay, and the first question kind of answered your third question, didn't it? Okay.
I'm going to put you on a microphone so they can hear you.
Transportation. Yeah. The transportation for the before and after care?
Yes,
we
you
provide
will
that?
need to get a CDL license.
You don't want me driving
No,
the bus?
that we've talked about the notion. Most of the school will likely be like Navy Elementary, and then over towards Greenbrier, and so they're very close. But part of the plan would be to have 2 buses that would be able to work that. When we're not going to go out and buy super expensive charter buses, but functional buses.
In the school, would they be able to discuss religion at all?
The reason that we are going to run it is so that we can run it as a Christian program. So.
In the capital campaign guy that we're working with, he said, if you want it to be a mission, that's the only way to do it, which was kind of good validation for us to be able to do that, because we want to be able to talk about Jesus in a school that we run, that's in our building. So, great question.
Can you clarify the school contribution in the out years? Because the way you explained it, it wasn't quite clear to me, years 1 through 3 and the plus 20,000. But just beyond year 3, what is the school contribution to either paying down the debt or contributing to church?
The estimates that we have, and it's a setup, I know, because you guys were involved in looking at the tuition, so thank you very much.
Just looking for clarification.
Jason and Jen went around and looked at other schools to get price comparisons, so it's a lot of great work. It is anticipated we're fully running, and I think we're at like 85 or 90% capacity, that the school with 200 kids will contribute, after expenses, $1.2 million a year. When the building was around 16 million, the debt service on that, if we had to take a loan of 8 million, would be about, the debt service would be around $1 million a year. So it was like 200,000, which was kind of uncomfortable for me personally, and Chad definitely. And Chad and I are going to look at this after the meeting tonight. If we have half the debt service will be way less, obviously. And so 1.2 million a year before we have the debt service, which should be like 500,000 a year or less.
So I know that the kids are being lassoed back and they're ready to be done. and some of them, they have school tomorrow. So we want to go in and close. If you have more questions, say, Antoine, last one. I'll give it to you, brother.
The threshold that we need to hit before you go to the bank to get the loan, is that 50% of the total amount, or is that a different amount?
It's squishy right now. They've said they're generally comfortable between loaning 50 and 60%, and the 60% or 50 and 60% is not just the $9 million, but can include everything else that we've spent to date. It's a matter of just showing that to them, and so.
And does that include pledges or like real hard liquid cash?
We will need to have the money to do that, but we're also working with the architects and builders to understand the timeline of when we need the money, because let's say the build takes 15 months. Most of the money is going to come in the latter half. The first part will be, when we say go, will be a lot of planning and design work and ordering supplies and equipment that we want to spend money on. So there will be a little bit of a timeline there. We can raise money as well.
So if you have questions or questions come up, please email. You can email David, Paul, or myself. You can use our names at fxcc.org. If you have a complaint, send them to David. Or you can go on the church center, on the hub.
I was going to say, you have my cell number. Everybody, you know where I live. Yes. You're welcome to talk about it anytime.
And if you don't call him, he'll call you all the time.
If you're not doing something.
We're going to end. We want you to be able to ask questions. I mean, this is a family conversation, and so continue to ask questions and push buttons, and that's okay. If we don't know the answer, the worst thing we can do is try to make one up. So if we don't know the answer, we're going to tell you, I don't know, but we will find out. The goal in this is to be as clear in our communication as possible, be as transparent about here's where we are. And I like the question about how much funding we have. Like we can give you the breakdown of that. And as far as like from the beginning of time contributed to the Vision Forward project, I can get Angie to get that for us. She's done it before, but it's now we need to be updated. And we can explain what those numbers are. So as we end, I just want to remind you, as we're talking about all of this, it seems really hard for us to separate sometimes a building and the money and all these things. The building is a tool. Our goal is to make the best use of the tool that we can. And so whether we do base minimum or we go all the way to the 9 million, this is a tool, and the goal is to save souls. Like our goal is to reach people. We really believe that this is the way to go. The plans are more us. The plans are something that are more palatable for us, and the options going forward. We don't have a do nothing option. So I want to say a prayer over us as we end tonight. And if you have questions, please email us, or you can go on the Church Center app, or there's that little building project hub. We'll have this video there. If you're like, what did they say? Go back and rewatch it. Send in questions there as well. So let's pray. God, thank you for the people who are here, the ones who are online. God, thank you for our church family. We live in a very busy world and a very busy area, and yet to be able to have time to come together, to pray, to laugh and eat, and to hear about building projects. I mean, what a luxury we have. God, I pray that you will be with all of us this week. Be with us in the plans forward. God, we pray that this is not just about us, that it's not just about this building, but it is about reaching the lost, to make disciples. God, we need help in all of that. We need help in the funding. We trust you. And God, if this is the direction you're taking us, help us to be attuned to that. Help us to be aware of what our next steps would be. And Father, my prayer is that we can look back and we can see how you were guiding our hands and our decisions and our church family in this time. Use us now. Prepare us plant the seeds for what we will do and where we will be and the people that we will interact with for your glory, for your kingdom, for your church. We pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen. All right, don't forget to get your kids.